You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. Let's take the top stories at this hour. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara talks tough, says his opponents are defeated. Court denies Binance firm executive bail in money laundering trial. Zimbabwe's government says it needs food aid to save its population from hunger. Stay with us, we have details of those headlines and other stories. You're welcome. Let's begin by telling you that President Bola Tinubu says West African countries must unite to crush banditry, terrorism, and other criminal activities plaguing the region. The Nigerian president stated this at the presidential villa in Abuja while visiting Senegalese president or visiting Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. He called for an alignment of purpose and structure in West Africa to effectively address the challenges confronting the region. According to a statement by presidential spokesman Ajuri Ngelale, Tinubu described Nigeria and Senegal as brotherly nations, recounting both countries' long history of cooperation, as he urged Faye to persuade other countries that have left ECOWAS to come back to the fold. On his part, the Senegalese president called for reactivation of the Nigeria-Senegal Joint Commission to strengthen bilateral relations in diplomacy, trade, and other spheres. Residents of Bazin in Kubwa Area Council of Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, say reports about 3 persons killed in the recent violent clash in the community are false. They also add that the clash was between scavengers, locally called Babambola, and residents of the community and did not have any religious intonation. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Recovery time for the residents of Biazin Kubwa, a suburb in Nigeria's federal capital. Following the clash that recently occurred in the community, some of the residents say the attack still lingers in their minds.
There's another woman here. She do POS. They collect her bag, collect her money from there. They mash her, they cut her. They enter this Wasobia shop here. They spot the TV, all of them, they run. They leave that place. All the top of pepper soup, the mother said they poured everything away. They leave that place. They meet another girl here. She do POS here. They knock on that with matches, all everything. They leave that place. They go to Minakota. They go to my own wife's shop. They scatter everything, both the show glass, both the bonds, everything. I said they scatter everything. They move on.
Although tension returned back to the community following a claim that some of the victims had lost their lives, the claim turned out to be false.
I want to see something. I said, when I call you and do something, he said, one sister. I said, yeah, no be toilet. And so, now you carry knife, one children. All of us wait in my shop, they helping me. One guy, baggy, and you collect the knife. Before I know, don't break your bottle.
I come carry my bag for Biaji. I carry my bag and I come to Biabi. All this Abuka know say I'm a Yoruba man. Now I can see they carry cloth like knock me. Gon carry stick, they knock me. Everybody gonna see me say waiting happen. Now I can run. Come on my shed, run, go station, go report. Make government or those Shabuki Mebola, make it help us. Now because now they cause all the problem. If you call Mobela and say may no carry this thing, it will be forced to carry this thing. I go to carry jackknife, say won't kill you.
Leaders of the different ethnic groups in the community insist that there is now peace and the time for crisis is over.
But if anybody said me, say we lost 2 lives, we lost 3 lives, it's a lie. If there is, tell me where the dead body is. Is it in the mortuary? If there is, tell me the house that person comes from. I want to know. Tell me the family of that person. There's nothing like that. We have not lost any life. But people succeeded. They got so many injuries.
The Federal Capital Territory remains a model of peace to other states and their communities. It is hoped that the peace restored back to Biaji community in Kubwa will be sustained. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
Well, back to the story on the visit of Senegalese President Abdoulaye Diomaye Faye to Nigeria, where he met with the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We're joined by a security expert, public affairs analyst, Opunabo Inkotaria, to discuss this. So, Ipalibo, rather, security expert Inkotaria Ipalibo, he joins us from Plateau State to discuss this. Mr. Inkotaria Ipalibo, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time tonight.
Good afternoon.
Sorry about that. Sorry about the mix-up with someone who is almost your namesake. I'm sure you can understand that. Considering the historical context of the bilateral cooperation between Nigeria and Senegal, how realistic is President Tinubu's call for President Faye, new president of Senegal, to bring departed countries back into ECOWAS to fight terrorism and banditry?
It's not a realistic request because the president of Senegal does not have the capacity to bring back the nations that departed ECOWAS into the fold. Reason being that it was ECOWAS that suspended these three nations, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic, because of the military interventions in those states. So having been suspended, their reaction to the suspension was their withdrawal. Of course, they have the right to withdraw. The president of Senegal does not have what it takes to bring back these nations into the fold.
Interesting. Well, President Tinubu in that meeting, he emphasized alignment of purpose and structure. What are the specific challenges that West African countries face in achieving this alignment of purpose and structure the president is talking about in their counter-terrorism and anti-banditry efforts?
Number one is funding. The funds that will make such a dream happen in the African and the West African nations, they would rather use it to solve more press towards a regional force. And then secondly, the different techniques used by the West African nations in fighting terrorism, it will be difficult to integrate those techniques into a regional approach that will combat terrorism. It's possible, but it will be difficult. It will take the question you should be asking is, who will spearhead such an alignment? Who will coordinate it? If you say Nigeria, are we ready for such an enormous, the various West African countries to bring up various techniques and strategies that will be integrated into a regional strategy to, if Nigerians would be willing to do that.
Ipalabo, beyond military cooperation, what other areas could be strengthened between West African nations to address the root causes of terrorism and banditry in the sub-region?
Addressing the root causes of banditry and terror still boils down to how you de-radicalize the. For now, the approach that Nigeria is using has not been proven to be effective. Of course, repentant Boko Haram members relapse into crime and terrorism, and then currently doing in the area of de-radicalization, rehabilitation, and reintegration has not been effective. If it has been effective, it would have been adopted as at the regional level. So, and there is none of the regional states to come up with an effective de-radicalization program. So, as we speak, come up with what is working so that it can be replicated at the regional level. So it will be difficult.
All right.
Collaboration The only area of collaboration for now seems to be the military collaboration, where you share intelligence and then where you bring military personnel together to fight terrorism as much as we can.
Interesting. Ipalibo Gotara, many thanks for your time this afternoon and for a sterling analysis.
All right, thank you for having me.
Ngotara Ipalibo, security expert who joined us from Plateau State in Nigeria. A federal high court in Abuja on Friday denied the bail application of Benin's executive Tigran Gambaryan. Justice Nyesom Wike held while delivering the ruling that he refused the bail application, having carefully gone through the application submitted before him and resolved that the defendant will jump bail if granted. Gambaryan, his company, Binance Holdings Limited, and a fellow top executive currently on the run, Nadeem Anjarwalla, were charged by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission of Nigeria with money laundering and terrorism financing. A fire outbreak has been reported at the new NNPC terminal, formerly OVH, Coyote Street at Marina Beach, Apapa, Lagos State. The result of fire resulted from a spillage of petroleum products within the perimeter of the tank farm. Concerted efforts are ongoing with various emergency responders within the oil and gas industry to contain the situation. Authorities assure that the emergency operations are under control with no immediate threat of escalating. Negotiations between Nigeria's federal government and organized labor on the proposed new national minimum wage of 48,000 naira are set to resume. There are indications that the Nigerian government may increase the proposed amount. The chairman of the Tripartite Committee on National Minimum Wage, Alhaji Burka Goni, invited labor leaders to continue negotiations on May 21, 2024. This invitation followed the walkout by the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, the Trade Union Congress, TUC, leaders from the negotiation committee due to the amount offered by the Nigerian government. President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajero, is insisting on a minimum wage of 615,000 naira and is blaming the Nigerian government and organized private sector for the breakdown in the negotiations. The Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, Adewale Smart Oyerinde, is urging labor unions to reconsider their position and return to the negotiation table. Earlier, Mohammed Abdullahi, public relations analyst, spoke to us on this.
The government is actually not serious with the proposal of 48,000. To put that in context, I want to drag us back to 1991 when Nigeria had actually 250 naira as its minimum wage. As at then, the dollar to naira is actually 8 naira. $1 equals 8 naira. So if you divide that, you have about $31 as our minimum wage. If you drag to 2000, the minimum wage was 5,500, and the exchange rate was about 85 naira then. So it means it was about $65. 2011, it was 19,000, and then the dollar averagely was about 150. So we had a 126. If you see the trajectory, it's like the minimum wage is increasing. And if you get back to 2019, when the current 30,000, even though most of the states are actually not paying, it's only the federal government that's paying. The average exchange rate, before now used to be 300, 350, and we have like $100, as part of our minimum wage. But now, 48,000 naira, you have the exchange rate to be about at least, average of 1,300, which means we have $37. In fact, we are actually...
News Central now will return after this break. Please stay with us. And now let's bring you the latest update from Rivers State and ongoing coverage of the political storm there. The Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has declared that his battles are over as he has defeated his opponents, who he says are not sleeping with their two eyes open. He also says that he has turned the tide against his opponents while noting that he is still in office, about to mark his first year, contrary to the plan by his detractors. Now, Fubara spoke amid the raging feud between him and his predecessor and his strange political godfather, Nyesom Wike, who is the minister of Nigeria's capital territory. Addressing the national and state leadership of the Ijaw Youth Council on Thursday at the Government House in Port Harcourt, Fubara says that he appreciates their support and is assuring them that they were with him. Now, PDP Stakeholders Forum has accused the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Umar Damagum, of allegedly receiving the sum of $2 million for the party to allow the lawyers of the FCT minister and former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, file secret processes to stop the court from declaring vacant the seats of the 27 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly who left the PDP to the APC. The group alleged that Umar Damagum received the money along with the PDP's national legal advisor on behalf of the National Working Committee of the party. In a statement, the publicity secretary of the group, Malam Abubakar Isa, is alleging that one of the members of the National Working Committee was privy to the deal, confided in him that though he has received his own share of the money, he was not happy with the way the party was going. Isa further is alleging that the processes will be filed by Dr. Joshua Musa SAN, well-known lawyer of Wike, on behalf of the PDP, and will vehemently maintain that the court should not sack the Rivers lawmakers who defected to another political party in violation of the law. Earlier, well, staying with the political drama in Rivers State, where some commissioners Shomade Pro Fubara recently resigned from office. Many pundits, stakeholders, and Rivers people who have been left wondering what could have gone wrong again, despite attempts by President Bola Tinubu to broker peace between the two former allies, Fubara and his predecessor, Nyesom Wike. We're now joined by our correspondent who is currently in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. He joins us live, Bernard Akede, and he is with a former Deputy Governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Chief Gabriel Toby. Bernard, thanks for joining us, and over to you.
And most recently, we've seen some commissioners resign, throw in the towel, those particularly who are pro the former governor, Nyesom Wike. We've also seen politicians move from one party to another. In your opinion, from someone who has been here for a while, how do you think this is affecting, or this would affect the political framework of the state?
Well, thank you very much. I speak for Rivers State Elders and Leadership Forum, standing in for the chairman, His Excellency. Standing in for the chairman, His Excellency Chief Rufus George, who is currently out of town. We have always stood for peace because we think that this state, what we need is peace. Without peace, you can't progress, and there will be no development. And in any case, as a family, politics or no politics, we should be able to sort out our problems. Now, coming to the issue of commissioners resigning and who said they are pro-Wike, well, one will expect, of course, that ordinarily every commissioner appointed by a governor owes loyalty and allegiance to the governor, who is his principal. And I'm sure you know that in the current parlance, politicians say there's no 99.9% loyalty. It's 100% loyalty. And so I expect that the commissioners that have resigned actually should have done that long ago, because you find that each of them said, I'm loyal to the former governor who is now a minister. Now, if you're loyal to him and he's no longer governor, then you have no business being in the cabinet of the man you're not loyal to. I mean, that is. Going out of his cabinet, of course, releases his tension, and of course makes him work with those he can trust. Because if you're working with people you can't trust, and they are your first line advisors, and they are the people to carry out cabinet decisions back to the administration and so on, then you find that every time you'll be sabotaged. The progress won't be there. Whatever you're doing in your government will not be noticed, because you're working with people who are not with you. And so once they have come out to say, we are not loyal to you, we are resigning from the cabinet and so on, I think that's the very, very best thing they can do. And that now empowers the governor to be able to now do what he should do without looking back at who is going to stab him at the back.
Going away from the commissioners who have resigned and looking at the broader spectrum of the governor and the minister at this point. Earlier, we saw that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had a
beginning to change.
Both parties.
It's almost one year to the governor being in power. What could have actually gone wrong between the two parties that had led us to where we are at the moment?
The two parties that had led us to where we are.
I wish I know. I'm not in their minds. I don't work with them. But as an elder of this state and a keen observer of what's happening, one thing that I'm convinced and we are convinced about is there can only be one governor at a time. And once a man is on seat, he deserves the dignity of office. He deserves the respect of that office. Even if you want to advise him or you want to guide him, you guide him not as a boy or your servant, but you guide him knowing that he has the mandate of the people of Rivers State to govern. And by grace of God, he's there. So what I noticed is that a man is a governor and he has a lot of distractions that pinch on his dignity sometimes and in fact on his authority. And I know that not many people can stomach that. And like I said, all of them politicians say that they don't want 99% loyalty. So why will it be different from His Excellency Governor Siminalayi Fubara? He also will want 100% loyalty because that's where it goes. And thank God, like you said, the president stepped in as a father, and he did absolutely what he should do in order to render peace in the place. But I'm sure the president would never have supported any cabinet commissioner going into a cabinet where he doesn't have his principal loyalty. The president will not support that. And he would not want that to happen to him.
Would definitely expect loyalty from his followers concerning those who have stepped out of the cabinet, and definitely that he would like to control the state while he is on seat. And every governor should get the respect that should be accorded him. Kofi, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bernard. We certainly will keep our eyes on the River State situation, of course, with our ongoing coverage all through this week and next week right here on News Central Television. Thank you, Bernard. Moving on, Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has launched a radio station in the nation's capital, Abuja, as part of its efforts to improve on its operations against corruption. The commission says that the pioneering anti-graft radio station, the first of its kind in Africa, will provide daily information, enlightenment, entertainment, and anti-corruption campaigns to the public. News Central's Joshua Imarayi tells us more.
With Nigeria's anti-graft agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, stepping up its tempo in fighting financial crimes, the agency this time has set up its own radio station. The EFCC says its radio station is designed to mobilize citizens against corruption and provide a platform for public engagement and education, hoping to have an impact in fighting graft and enlightening the public on its operational activities.
But for us in the EFCC, owning a radio station is not just a status symbol, but an important organ of mobilization against graft, where communication and public engagement have the same impact and depth as our operational activities. Indeed, our own radio station, we are in a better position to tell our stories, factually, ungarnished, and undiluted.
Stakeholders present commended the initiative, saying that the activities of the EFCC towards modernizing its operation with citizens in mind can be a game changer.
The establishment of the EFCC FM radio is in line with the laws that established EFCC to carry out rigorous public enlightenment to Nigerians both at home and abroad.
The EFCC has done tremendously well in this fight. They have generated the necessary awareness and consciousness about the impact and consequences of corrupt practices in Nigeria. These giant strides are highly commendable, and I urge the Commission not to relent until all corrupt practices are effectively tackled. Indeed, there is still more to be done, and the use of radio is the right way to go.
The second pillar of our 5-point agenda at the Ministry of Information and National Orientation is to amplify the policies and programs of the federal government. And I'm happy that we now have a new partner in the EFCC. The first pillar of that 5-point agenda is to restore public trust in communications in Nigeria.
Many here say that the establishment of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission radio is another step towards the right direction in the fight against corruption. They add that the radio will help disseminate necessary information to the citizens at the grassroots, helping them to combat misinformation and supporting efforts in eradicating corruption. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Nigeria's federal government has called on the International Atomic Energy Agency to support its quest to adapt nuclear energy for peaceful use in the country. Now, this was made known by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation as he received a high-level delegation from the International Atomic Energy Agency in Abuja. With more, here's News Central's Amadinui.
The team from the International Atomic Energy Agency was led by the Director General, Rafael Mariano Grossi. The IAEA team revealed that the adoption of nuclear energy has tremendous benefits for any nation.
Nuclear technology is a technology that requires excellent preparation and strict adherence to safety methodologies and practices.
Nuclear science contributes significantly to overall socio-economic development, particularly in power and non-power, significantly in the area of cancer diagnosis and management.
They say Nigeria's desire to adopt the use of atomic energy will help the nation immensely, as the technology can be used in several sectors of the economy.
Nigeria has also fully shown its commitment to use nuclear energy to generate electricity, to a combination of a mix of energy that electricity we're generating today, hydro from gas, and now more we're going to the realm of renewable energy.
In Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, where I come from, the introduction of nuclear energy is a reality. And I think that a country of global significance like Nigeria, of enormous significance in Africa itself, is doing just the logical thing by exploring the ways and now moving more decisively into this area.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation called for support from the International Atomic Energy Agency, saying Nigeria can make use of their expertise.
Appeal for more collaboration and partnership so that our country will continue to leverage on the expertise of your agency in order to reinforce Nigeria's national nuclear program.
The SGF assured that Nigeria will not be left behind, following the adoption of nuclear energy technology by many countries to solve their energy needs. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
You're still watching News Central now. Coming up, Constitutional Court affirms Idris Deby's victory in Chad's disputed poll. Details after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The highest decision-making body of the civil rights organization, AfriForum, says it's committed to seeing the legal battle against the national health insurance through till the end. AfriForum's board of directors signed a resolution and will file a lawsuit against the government and undertake that this lawsuit will continue until its remedies have been exhausted. AfriForum is one of several role players who have announced a legal battle against the NHI and intends to do so by means of a class action together with an interim application to suspend the application thereof. The bill was signed by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on Wednesday. Earlier, Louis Boshoff, campaign officer at AfriForum, spoke to us on this.
So what is characteristic of the NHI bill is not only the fact that the South African government intends to offer health insurance to South Africans, but also that in the end it will in effect ban private health insurance, or at least ban private health insurance from covering the same health services that the state's NHI fund intends to cover. And we believe this is absolutely a move in the wrong direction, and it can possibly lead to economic devastation for South Africa because it requires huge tax increases, and it will drive healthcare professionals out of the country, frankly.
South Africa has ended rescue efforts at the site of a deadly building collapse on Friday, having revised down the number of people that were at the premises when the accident occurred. At least 33 people were killed when an under-construction 5-story building came crashing down in the southern town of George on Monday, the 6th of May. The provincial government said another 29 were pulled alive from the rubble during the search and rescue operations lasting 260 hours. Authorities also say that based on information received from the contractor, police had estimated at 81 the number of people, mainly construction workers, thought to be at the site when the disaster struck. The Zimbabwean cabinet says more than half of Zimbabwe's population will need food aid this year to save many from hunger, following a devastating drought that led to widespread crop failure. According to the Zimbabwe Livelihoods Assessment Committee, about 6 million people in rural areas and 1.7 million in urban areas will require assistance. Zimbabwe is among the worst hit countries by the El Niño phenomenon, which induced a drought in southern Africa, with Zambia and Malawi also facing food shortages this year. Now, this is Zimbabwe's worst drought in 40 years, according to the country's government. To discuss this, we're joined by Thabile Nkunjana. He's a senior economist at Trade Research Unit, Markets and Economic Research Division of the National Agriculture Marketing Council. Thabile, it's good to have you. Let's start by asking you, what are the estimated crop losses and food production impacts in southern Africa due to this ongoing drought, and how will these losses affect local food production and food security?
Okay, good afternoon to you, and thanks for having me. So the region, that is Southern African region, has been, recent times a lot of reports coming out that the region is facing serious potential shortages in maize in general production, and this is a result of a number of assessments that have been done by a number of countries. For instance, South Africa is estimated to be at least for the latest estimates that is going to have at least 19% shorter of what it has produced the previous season. And the latest numbers are coming out of Zim now is that they also have significantly lost quite a chunk of what they normally produce. At this stage, the latest numbers is that around 70% of what the country produces, it is lost. And of course, countries like Zambia, which is also a crucial country that normally supplies Zim with maize as well, is said to be, of course, there has been some sort of measures that have been tried, but the reality is that the state of emergency has been called in that country as well, meaning that maize that it normally supplies to is not going to be there. Malawi is another country that has been devastated following some of the persisting issues that it has faced from the previous season as well. So the state of the maize production in general in the Southern Africa region, it appears to be not in good shape, at least for this season.
Fabile, tell us, how will this drought affect, vulnerable populations, such as children, the elderly, and those living in poverty, in terms of their access to food and nutrition?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not going to be good. I mean, as much as we don't want, I mean, I always say this, we don't want to project fear to people or general publicly. But the issue is that people across the Southern Africa region, they are faced with economic difficulties. And this is, of course, is going to be even worse for families or households that depend on some state, maybe some state of kind of support, where they are not necessarily, support systems coming through in terms of work or other maybe living on, some remittances. So those kind of families are going to be faced with quite a difficult situation. And of course, as you're mentioning, that for those that necessarily are kind of all elderly and of course kids, we have one of the regions across the world that is having quite a number of malnutrition kids because of, again, these some things that are somehow are related to socioeconomic issues. So it is going to be a difficult situation should it get to as worse, in terms of what the current situation is. But there is a potential of the changes in the temperatures that have negatively impacted our local production, at least for now. So that's a positive thing. But until we see the full cycle or the full impact of what has happened in terms of based on what we have seen in terms of the drought, then we can be in a position to say this is what is going to be, the picture, and that of course will need various interventions by all the governments within the southern part of the region.
What are the potential long-term consequences of this drought on food security in Southern Africa, including increased food prices and potential migration?
Yeah, so I mean, this one is going to, of course, affect countries differently based on what each, country within the region has faced. Remember that a number of countries who have been, kind of recovering from a lot of setbacks, some from the COVID-19, some from the, the issues that are resulted from the conflict in Ukraine and so forth. So also the economic performance has not necessarily been very well. There are other countries that are facing conflicts, migration and all that. So these are some of the things that will determine what is going to be the impact. And then as far as food is concerned, I think for now, we as I was saying earlier on, we can't just mention or say, put a blunt number in terms of what is going to happen. But the reality is we have already begun to see at least maize prices in South Africa kind of trending upward. For instance, for the last month, numbers have seen that maize is traded at around 40% higher than it was for the same period last year, meaning we have already seen numbers going up. And also when you are looking into food inflation for countries like Zim, who've already been on 3 digits, we have countries where we have seen within the region that have food inflation that is around 39 to 40% higher. So you can tell that as far as the current situation is concerned, it's probably going to lead to something that is going to be difficult for a number of countries as far as food security is concerned. And of course, the issue of food affordability, it normally leads to to food insecurity. And this is something that the region, of course, has always had issues with because of the climate issues. We have had quite a number of disasters that have happened, be it either drought or flooding and on so forth. So these are some of the issues that are potentially going to lead to some kind of food problems within the region. But of course, we are still kind of looking at the entire situation and hoping that it is not going to get as bad, as a number of people has anticipated.
Fabile Nkunjana of the National Agricultural Marketing Council, thank you so kindly for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Still ahead, Texas Governor Greg Abbott pardons a man who killed a Black Lives Matter protester. We'll bring you details of this and other stories when we return. Welcome back. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has granted a full pardon to former U.S. Army sergeant and an Uber driver who was jailed for 25 years for fatally shooting a Black Lives Matter protester in 2020. In his declaration of pardon, the Republican Abbott referenced the state's Stand Your Ground legislation on self-defense, which is one of the strongest such measures in the United States of America. The announcement came shortly after the Texas Board of Pardons and Parole unanimously recommended a pardon for Daniel Perry and a restoration of his firearm rights following an investigation that the board conducted at the governor's request. 37-year-old Perry was found guilty in April 2023 of murder and the death of 28-year-old Garrett Foster, a U.S. Air Force veteran who was shot at a Black Lives Matter rally in Austin, Texas, the state capital, in July 2020. In business, Nigeria's inflation rate for April has been recently released, surprising analysts as it came at 33.69% below their expectations. Today we'll be joined by an economist to provide insights into this unexpected figure and the broader economic landscape. Our discussion will cover the factors behind this slight declaration, the outlook for price reductions, and the implications of monetary policy decisions on the economy. During the Business Edge show, Oladipo Ajayi, head of fixed income and FX at Capital or Chapel Hill Denham, shared his thoughts on whether we should anticipate a continuation of this disinflation trend in May, or if there will be a different outcome.
I agree very much with them because basically you can't use just a month anticipation to actually measure the direction. As we speak, this could be a flash in the pan because basically it's not that it's steady that 8,000 where we actually landed at somewhere at some point at the early part of April. And as we speak currently, Naira is currently north of 8,000. Of course, we expect to actually see that impact as well. So I share their view because when you look at what is happening post April, you tend to want to have this perception that, of course, may likely see a bit of change in May, considering some of those things that you have mentioned.
In sport, Heartland Queens will face former champions Nasarawa Amazons in the Nigerian Women's Football League Premiership Super 6 playoffs, match day 1 at the Samson Siasia Stadium in Yenagoa by Elsa State. The draw ceremony took place on Friday in Yenagoa as 6 teams qualified for the event. Rivers Angels, Edo Air Queens, Bayelsa Queens, Nasarawa Amazons, Confluence Angels, and Heartland Queens. The round-robin format will see each team play 5 matches. Teams with the most points at the end will be crowned champions and earn a ticket to represent Nigeria at the CAF Women's Champions League. Each match day includes a rest day for player recuperation, and the matches begin tomorrow. And that's all at this hour. Before we go, let's take another look at the major stories this afternoon. We brought you news that River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has talked tough, saying his opponents have been defeated. A court has denied Binance firm executive Gambrian bail in a money laundering trial ongoing in Nigeria. And Zimbabwe's government says it needs food aid to save its population from hunger. Please send us your eyewitness reports using the WhatsApp number and email address showing on your screen. You can follow us on social media where we're at News Central TV, and watch us live on DSTV channel 422 StarTimes 274 on Avo TV and on YouTube. Thanks for watching. I'm Kofi Bartels. Good afternoon.